that. Oh, it's okay. I'll do it. Good afternoon, everyone. 1 o'clock on Monday, and we're here with today's briefing. We have no press in the room today. Everyone is on the line, so we're going to have myself speak very briefly, Chief Sampson, Mr. Duckworth, our city manager. I'll come back with a few statements, and then we will do questions together at the end, and Sherry will call for the operator and for the questions as we go ahead and do that. So thank you all so much for being here. Of course, the most important thing today is that we did get some sad news on the weekend that another Calgarian has been lost to the COVID-19 virus. And of course, that weighs heavily on all of us and on all of the decisions we're making. Of course, we're thinking about her family at this time. I don't have any more details on the person, unfortunately, but all of us together are understanding the impact this is having on families and on communities. But it really underscores the importance for every single one of us to continue to take every single possible action we can to limit the spread of this virus. Clean hands, clear heads, open hearts. But really, we need to be focused on what we can do. We need to stay home as much as we can. We need to be kind and look after one another. We need ultimately to save lives. That power is in the hands of every single one of us. And that is something that we ought not to take lightly. So, with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Tom Sansom, the Chief of Calgary Emergency Management Agency, who is going to give you an update. Then we'll have City Manager David Duckworth give you a short update. I will come back and talk about a few different things, and then we'll go to questions. We also have Troy McLeod here with us, the Director of Calgary Roads, who can answer any questions about roads and all the work that has been done on the weekend and will continue to be done as we get into the spring repair and sweeping season. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Sampson. Chief?
Good afternoon. A couple of quick announcements. Our building services is open for business, and I am so proud to say that they've really developed some new initiatives to be able to keep going. We know that lots of Calgarians are at home, and some of them are entering into renovation projects, those sorts of things. And so you could do that, but we have inspections available for you online. So first off, you can go to a chat and you can link in with calgary.ca live chat, and you can talk to an operator there about what you're contemplating doing, and they can give you some guidance. If your property is vacant, no people on it, they'll come and do an actual visual inspection. But if you have people on the property, we may choose to use Google Duo. So you download it, we don't download it, and we do a virtual inspection. And talk about innovation. What a great way. We don't have inspectors driving around the city. This really works. So we're kind of excited about that. The second thing I talked to you about is a bit of 911 messaging. We've had some people who have dialed 811 to get advice from Alberta Health. And one of the challenges that's happening is that they're frustrated with maybe a little bit of a delay on that line. So they're hanging up and they're dialing 911. And when they dial 911, they may suddenly decide to abandon that call. So what we're asking you to do, first off, if you want 811, please stay on the line with 811 and don't sort of funnel over to 911. It's not the backup for the 811 line. If you do somehow inadvertently dial 911, please stay on the line so that you can clear the call with the operator. If you don't, we'll end up having to call you back, and or one of our city officials will have to visit your residence and ensure that everything is okay. What a great weekend folks had in our parks, and we're getting reports back that the parks were well utilized and that people were practicing appropriate physical distancing. Also, huge kudos to our road crews. They closed down the highways and gave some room for people to walk, and they focused obviously on the areas that would have normally had lots of congestion to create some wide open spaces. So great work. We're going to assess obviously how well that worked, and Troy McLeod and his gang from Roads will make a determination before the weekend what we do and how we do it. The one thing that we have had some questions about is about enforcement. And our whole thing right now is to spread the word so we don't spread the virus. And I just want to repeat that. We're trying to spread the word rather than the virus. So it's not about enforcement right now. It's about talking to people and having them understand that you, the citizens of Calgary, can determine whether or not we have luck pushing this virus down or whether conversely we have a problem. And I assure you that we will have a problem if you don't physically space, if you don't wash your hands, cough into your arm, cover your nose when you sneeze, those sorts of things, and constantly clean your hands. Just a reminder that soap and water is as good as anything, in fact, probably better than anything to keep those hands clean. Hand sanitizer works when you don't have soap and water. So, in terms of enforcement, if you have an issue, there is a site on the AHS website if you're calling to report somebody that's not doing what they should be doing. Um, whilst I recognize you might choose to call police, we'd actually encourage you to call 311 if it's not urgent, if you have a city issue that needs to be addressed. Um, and that's about it. I think I hope that we're all realizing that together, working strongly together, and I see that on the street every day, we can push this virus down and hopefully have a good result. I'll pass it along to our city manager, David Duckworth.
Thank you, Your Worship and Chief Sampson. I'll keep this relatively brief. So as we all respond to the impacts of COVID-19, the city is taking some significant steps as an organization. We continue to follow the guidance of Alberta Health Services to limit the spread of this virus so that we can protect our employees and the citizens that we serve. Doing so has required significant changes to some of the programs and services that we offer. So today, we have made the incredibly difficult decision to make some temporary workforce adjustments. We've had to lay off some of our part-time and temporary colleagues. This is not an action that we wanted to take, but we needed to. More information on this decision will be made available later today. I want to stress that these are not permanent reductions. Taking this step ensures our employees who are impacted by this decision can be eligible for supports that are in place by other orders of government. We look forward to the time that we are able to reopen facilities and restore impacted services so we can bring our valued employees back to work. As the city continues to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic, we remain committed to providing essential services to that Calgarians rely on every day. We will continue to evaluate and monitor our service levels to find the right balance for citizens and employees. Thank you. With that, I think we'll open up to questions.
Me first.
Oh, sorry, Your Worship.
Thanks very much, Tom and David. So to just underscore a little bit of what David was just saying, these are tough decisions, and David has been an extraordinary leader and has reminded us that every decision we make has to be based on 4 criteria. Whatever we can do to flatten the curve, whatever we can do to be a supportive and compassionate employer, how we can support business and citizens through this pandemic, and our need to continue to provide essential services 24/7 every single day. Most of the folks who work for the city, most of our colleagues are extraordinarily busy right now. They're busy providing services. I have to remind folks too that we are the 2nd largest employer in Calgary. And as such, we, like every employer, have been touched by people in self-isolation, by people who have contracted the virus, by people who are recovering. And so as a result, we have to be able to cover off the services that we need to provide every single day. And those who are here are working full out. So you will, for example, see some adjustments to the Calgary Transit schedule over the next several days as we try to move the availability of transit to the availability of drivers. But we do have some staff who are on call, who are part-time, who are casual and temporary employees who just don't have hours right now. It's if you are teaching a fitness class and that fitness facility is closed, you're just not getting those hours. And for a lot of these folks, it made sense to help get them into a place where they can access some of the federal and provincial government supports that are available, because the alternative is just to not have any hours. And so we're working with our staff as we speak. This is going on right now. A lot of folks are getting calls today. And we really are moving towards being as thoughtful as we can, understanding the various announcements that have come from the federal and provincial government, and also understanding our commitment as an employer to making sure that people are treated fairly, both under what's required by employment standards and various union contracts, but also with a real knowledge that times are tough right now. As I said, these are largely, in fact, I believe entirely part-time employees, most of whom work fewer than 20 hours a week. And we are really working hard to make sure that they are in a position where they're in a position that's best for themselves and for the city. I have a few other things I wanted to chat about. The first is after our last media availability, the province made the not unexpected announcement that all non-essential businesses were to close. This is an announcement that we support, that we were very pleased about. It's an important thing to take as we flatten the curve, and many businesses have been asking for this kind of clarity. If you are not sure where you stand in this, I really encourage you to visit alberta.ca. You can see a list of, it's quite an expansive list of the businesses that are considered essential services that are there. And there is a email address that you can ask your questions to if you're not sure whether you have to close or not. That email is bizconnect@gov.ab.ca, and biz is with a Z. So bizconnect@gov.ab.ca. And they should be able to answer all of your questions there. I also am very cognizant of the fact that it's almost the first of the month. And I want to remind my fellow landlords out there that the province of Alberta did make some decisions that there will be a moratorium on evictions starting on April 1st for non-payment. But I really want to just reach out to my landlords with a real, to my fellow landlords with a real common sense plea. Be thoughtful, be reasonable, talk to your tenants. This is both for commercial landlords as well as for residential landlords. Ultimately, you're not going to find a new tenant in this situation. So this is really an opportunity for you to talk to your tenants. There may be people, for example, who are waiting on income support from the province or from the federal government. That might take a few days to come in. So landlords, be thoughtful, be reasonable. I know you have bills to cover as well. But ultimately, as always, we get through this together. I will have a couple more messages, but maybe I'll leave those for the end, and we can go to questions now. Chief Sampson is here, Mr. Duckworth is here, and Troy McLeod, the Director of Roads, is here as well. So we'll go to questions. So operator, if you could start us off with the first question, please.
Our first question comes from Tom Ross of 660 News. Your line is open.
Hi. I first off had a question about enforcement, just like Mr. Sampson was talking about. We saw some photos of some kids still going into closed down playgrounds over the weekend. And I'm curious where you're going along with on how to enforce the playground closures, and, how do you get that message across to kids to, find something different to do?
I never thought, as Chief Sampson is coming up, I will just say, I never thought that in the middle of this pandemic, one of the things we would be thinking about is playground police to pull the children off the swings. That does not sound like fun at all. In reality, we do need to turn to parents and to communities and remind them playgrounds are closed, play structures are closed, skate parks are closed. Anything that is a high-touch surface is just not safe. It's not safe for your kids. So keep your kids safe, keep yourself safe, stay off that playground equipment. Our staff are putting up yellow tape reminding people they're closed, but ultimately we have to rely on people to do the right thing. But I'm sure Chief Sampson has a little bit to say actually about enforcement.
Thanks for your question. As I said, we're trying to spread the word, not spread the virus. And what I can tell you is that I know that our friends in Calgary Bylaw, the Calgary Bylaw officers, and in the Calgary Police Service are not interested in enforcement in this case. They're interested in working towards education and having people understand why we're trying to do it. I think that it becomes very real when you look at the fact that we have a 26-year-old in Alberta who's in the intensive care unit. This is not an old people's problem. I mean, certainly old people are more likely to suffer untoward effects from this virus, but it's not just an old people problem. It's a whole of society problem. And so, as the mayor has said, I encourage you to talk to your kids really openly about, it's not about how fun it is to go out and break the rules. This is a very serious situation. And of course, the concern becomes that kids spread it amongst themselves so easily. They may not even have symptoms. And then, of course, you have a family dinner, a small family dinner. Everybody thinks that they've been isolating somewhat. And people see grandma and grandpa there, and the virus process is passed along to grandma and grandpa. And so not a great thing to do, and obviously has a far more severe effect on grandma and grandpa if you do that kind of thing. So it's all about education right now, and hopefully we don't actually have playground policing or playground enforcement. Thanks.
Operator, next question, please.
Our next question comes from Madeline of Calgary Herald. Your line is open.
Hey everyone. Apparently I just have one name now.
Like share.
Today, so I am gonna put myself back in the queue a few times. I'm not sure how many people are on the line, but
You know what, Madeline? Just ask all your questions at once, and we'll get through them as best we can.
okay. I'm just gonna.
Except apparently you're not going to ask any of them because we just lost you. Operator? There we go.
Sorry. Okay. For City Manager Duckworth, can you please give some more detail on the temporary layoffs? Can you explain why you aren't giving a specific number of layoffs right now, as well as can you give any more detail about which departments these are coming from? Is it all from recreation, for example, or just where is the level of detail there?
I can help with that, and then if you need more, we can turn to Mr. Duckworth as well. So these are temporary on-call and casual employees affiliated with services that are no longer being provided. So the majority of them are with recreation, given that is the facilities that are closed now. The various gyms and rec facilities. There are some related staff in other business units that are similarly providing services that are now closed. There's not very many of them. The bulk are, in fact, in recreation. We don't have a final number for you because things are so very fluid in terms of what's going on, even with the federal government's announcement this morning about wage subsidies. So we wish that we could provide more detail. But that is about where we're at now. And frankly, we want people to hear from their supervisors and from the city before they hear through the press. So we anticipate that those conversations will be happening over the course of today and tomorrow.
Sorry, and just for the city manager as well, maybe do you know when you expect to actually be able to make public, how many layoffs there are? I mean, I'm sure you're aware.
Probably tomorrow. Okay. Might even be end of the day today, but probably tomorrow. Sorry, I'm just trying to avoid all the physical distancing stuff. So if I know the answer and I'm standing here, I'm just answering it.
Temporarily today. So is Calgary on a similar trajectory? Can you say?
I missed the first part of what you said. I assume you said something about Edmonton.
Yeah, they laid off 1,600 people.
Yeah, I believe that their numbers also, I don't know if that number includes, but I know they also made some announcements about affiliated city services like the library today. But you can imagine that their percentage of part-time casual employees is probably very similar to ours.
Okay.
So to be a little more specific, somewhere south of 10% of the city staff would be in that category. Of course, not every one of them will be receiving that news today.
Right.
Anything else, Madeline?
I do have more. Are there more people on the line?
Why don't we go to some other folks and come back to you then, Madeline? Operator, can we go to the next person?
Our next question comes from Ken McGilvery of Global TV. Your line is open.
Hi. I don't know who would take this, but We did hear some trying to track down the validity of it or not, but we heard that somebody was given a $1,000 ticket over the weekend for not maintaining social distance. A couple of people walking along the street, and I don't know if taking them by law or police, but just trying to figure out whether that actually is indeed happening. Are there enforcement taking place, or is these just rumors?
Thanks for the question surrounding enforcement. I have been in touch with both our bylaw and our Calgary Police Service today, and I don't believe that there have been any charges of that nature that have occurred. I can't say 100%, but to my knowledge, we're all in agreement that we're working on education, not enforcement at this time.
Can I ask one bit related one? Also seeing, garbage such as gloves and masks being discarded in parking lots. I know we had a cameraman out who got some visit of that. Is that something that the city is targeting? Could people be fined for that, charged for that? Is that something that's on your radar?
Well, keeping in mind that I am not in charge of bylaw, nor am I directly associated with the Calgary Police Service, here's what I'd say to that. On a citywide basis, it would be my anticipation that that form of littering would be treated no differently than an individual who decided to throw a garbage bag outside of a car in front of a bylaw officer. So I don't think that people should think that they're going to get education in that regard. They're probably, I would say, if you did that in front of a bylaw officer, that's littering is littering. That's not something that we need to be educated on this time. We're spending a lot of time on educating people about COVID-19, the danger it presents to them, and as such, we're I think trying to be respectful that this is an education issue rather than an enforcement issue. The latter that you just mentioned, which is of course littering, does become an enforcement issue at some time, but those respective groups will make their decisions when they choose to enforce that or not. Thank you.
Operator, next question, please.
Our next question comes from Kevin Nimick of CTV. Your line is open.
Hi there. This one might be for the mayor, but I think it could be for anyone. You had just mentioned that the layoffs are going to affect about 10% of city staff. How many staff members are there? How many people are on payroll right now? What does 10% look like?
You're really trying to get to that number, aren't you? There's probably about roughly 1,300 employees in these categories, but as I said, not every one of them will be affected by the announcement today.
Fair enough. I do have a follow-up question. I'm wondering about the road closure program.
Mm-hmm.
If you could, as you said, it went well this weekend. If you could just provide a little bit of insight on what we can expect moving forward.
Sure.
Are roads going to continue to be closed on weekends? Could that happen the whole week as people are staying home from work?
Sure. I'll call Mr. McLeod up in a second. I'll just provide a sentence of context on all of this, which is, as I said last week, I haven't even said which roads have lanes closed, and that's because it's really important to think of this not as we're having a street festival and everybody come down. This is not COVID Fest 2020. What it really is that we found that on the weekends, when the weather was nice, as you know, we've just had our 5th false spring, 6th false spring, hopefully coming this weekend. When the weather is nice, the pathways were too crowded and it just wasn't safe. People physically couldn't abide by the 2-meter bicycle full-grown llama rule to be between one another. So essentially what this was more a way of saying, should you find yourself on that path, you may find extra room on the roadway to walk on. And that went very well. People really were able to physically distance. The message, though, to Calgarians is still the same, which is get some fresh air, go for a walk, get some exercise. Try to do it if you can in your own neighborhood. Explore your own neighborhood, your sidewalks, your parks, not your playgrounds, in your own neighborhood. Don't necessarily drive to walk. If you are driving to walk for whatever reason and you see that the parking lot's full, just keep on going rather than add to the crowding in these already crowded spaces. So ultimately, get out, get some fresh air, but try to do it close to home. I should also add one thing, which is the Public Health Agency of Canada today announced some changes to their rules on people going outside. And the most important one is they now say that if you are someone who is on enforced self-isolation, so for example, if you're someone on your 14 days after returning for international travel, they are recommending that you stay on your property. You can still go in the backyard or on your balcony if you've got those amenities, but they're asking that you not actually wander around the neighborhood, and that is new information. So I thought I would share that. Mr. McLeod.
Thank you, Your Worship. That's a very good point. We closed some of the roads so we could provide additional spacing for pedestrians and cyclists to get out and get some exercise. We're encouraging everyone to do that in their neighborhoods so we can disperse that activity across the city. We do know there are locations that have high congestion, so we were able to do that. The program was successful in large part. We're evaluating the numbers and watching the social distancing that did occur. A lot of people gave each other room, which is excellent. So we want that to continue. And so we'll be announcing what we'll be doing moving forward as far as that activity. The other activity that we want to do is our spring cleanup program. That program's important. As you give each other room and you're walking on the sidewalk, you need some room to get out into that parking lane. So we want to clear that material off the road, both for the environment, so that material doesn't go into our river system, but also for the safety of the public. So you'll be hearing more about that program coming this week as to what we're doing for spring cleanup.
Operator, next question, please.
Our next question comes from Scott Dipple of CBC Calgary. Your line is open.
Hi, just with the temporary layoffs, we heard some of the detail from the City of Edmonton about salary top-ups and notice that that city would be providing to the workers affected. I wondered what the rules are in Calgary for those who would be affected by this round of layoffs.
In this case, it is largely a case-by-case basis, depending on how long you've been with the city and so on. Roughly 1/3 of the people involved will be getting up to 8 weeks notice. 1/3 would be getting 8 weeks. 1/3 would be getting a little more than 8 weeks. That's a very broad stroke on the conversation that we're having now. There's a lot of specifics around things like benefits that we're working through at the moment, but ultimately we are going to treat people as fairly as we can.
All right, and do you have any information about potential layoffs for staff employees at some point in the near future?
No, at this point there are no issues contemplated for regular full-time staff. I know that other cities have had the opportunity to have very open conversations with their labor unions around what kind of special things we might put in place now so as to avoid a lot of rigmarole and red tape should it be needed later. And I would certainly welcome having those conversations here as well.
Thanks. And just one other topic, probably for the city manager, just wondering if you can give us an update on how many city employees are not available for work right now, whether that's because of testing COVID positive or they're self-isolating or they're caring for family members, and how that's affecting the city operation in terms of, people at work, people maybe assigned home, that type of thing.
So Mr. Duckworth and Chief Sampson say they don't have exact numbers at the moment. We can certainly track those. I know our human resources people have been tracking them very carefully. Just to give you an example, though, I do have one example from one business unit, which is on a typical day in transit, you'll probably have 200 people off for various reasons, sickness, just taking time off and so on. Last week, that number, rather than 200, was getting between 600 and 700. So we are getting a sense of a lot of folks doing the right thing and being careful. As well, many city employees are working from home, but they are working hard. Man, have I learned working from home is tough. That commute on either end is my only time to clear my head, and now I don't have that anymore. And are we up to about 4,000, David, staff working from home? 4,500 staff working from home. Did you guys want to add anything to that? All right, thanks, Scott. Oh, David, did you?
Thank you.
No, it's good.
Come on, come.
Thanks for that question, Scott. So, for example, in our transportation department, I understand it's about 10 to 15% of our workforce resources there are unavailable for work directly related to COVID-19.
All right, next question, please. Next question, please.
Our next question comes from Tom Ross of 660 News. Your line is open.
Hi, I'm back again.
It's like deja vu.
A question about transit too. Excuse me. I was curious about transit passes. I know that you extended the low-income transit pass. Is there any consideration for regular transit passes to get a extension or maybe change the refund policy right now?
At this time, we are asking people to continue to pay their fares as they can, because frankly, we are getting so much revenue loss at the moment from the city that those who are able to and those who are still using the service really should still be paying their fares. We have made an exception for low-income transit pass users. The reason for that is because there were only 4 places to buy the passes, and 2 of them were rec centers that were closed, and we just didn't want that kind of crowding.
Are you able to quantify a bit more on that lost revenue?
It's real big. Did you want more? Sorry, I don't have the numbers in front of me. I don't know, David, do you? Transit lost revenue?
It's in the order of, I'm going off the top of my head here, but I understand it's in the order of $6 to $8 million a month.
Yeah, I think it's even gone up a bit from that. Yeah, those are very big numbers. We've lost, last I checked, we were down about 60% in ridership on the bus fleet, about 80% on the train. So you can imagine that those numbers are starting to look like 10 million a month, probably slowly getting there. And the challenge, of course, that we have that the other governments don't have is we don't run a deficit. And so money that we lose in March and in April, we really have to find a way to make that money back or find another mechanism to balance our books by the end of the year. So this is something we're watching very, very carefully. I see that Troy is on his phone looking for a real number. So if I get a real one before we finish, I'll update you with that. Next question, please.
Our next question comes from Madeline Smith, Calgary Herald. Your line is open.
Hey again. I just wanted to clarify a couple of things. So with the temporary layoffs, will that be effective pretty much immediately? Or I just got a bit confused about the 8-week.
Yeah, for some folks, there'll be a payment in lieu of notice. For some folks, we're providing working notice. In other words, that there's still a little bit of work for them to do, so they'll continue it off, and it really does vary person by person. Edmonton, I think, was able to make a more definitive statement that everyone is there for 2 weeks until the 14th, and then there'll be some wage supplements going forward. In our case, it really is case by case.
Okay. And then with the number you just gave in terms of lost revenue on transit, I know you're kind of looking up a more precise number, but was that the lost revenue overall on the system or just based on bus passes?
My understanding is that's overall on the transit system. And that's just one area of lost revenue for the city. There are many others, and we are attempting to quantify right now what the financial impact to the city is, but it's big. It's in the many millions per week now.
Okay. And the other question I had was just about folks that are still staying in shelters. Has an overflow location been identified at this point, given that we're moving away from the hotel room plan?
My understanding is that the province will have a statement on that very shortly, maybe even today, but that the work on that is continuing. Ultimately, that is a decision between the province and the shelters themselves. The Mustard Seed, as you know, already has its overflow space at the First Alliance Church. Alpha House already has its overflow space in a hotel. And so the drop-in center is the big one that's left here.
Why does the province get to decide where the city is going to use those facilities? I don't understand why that's up to the province at this point.
The golden rule. He who has the gold makes the rules. Ultimately, although we work a lot on homelessness at the City of Calgary, as that is correct and we should be doing, it is a provincial responsibility, and ultimately they're the funders and they make the decisions.
And then, sorry, I'm going to squeeze one more in and then maybe check if there's still more people waiting. But for people who are staying in shelters, there's pretty much nowhere for them to go during the day at this point. Every public space is closed, can't sit in a Tim Hortons, can't go to the library. So is there a plan to make some space for people to go during the day to warm up or have somewhere to at least sit, given that there's literally nothing open at this point?
Well, the drop-in center is now open 24 hours. In the old days, the shelters used to close in the morning and everyone had to leave. And nowadays they do in fact stay open. I imagine any overflow shelters would continue to stay open and provide those services as well. But I feel you know, even for people who work outdoors, there's nowhere to go to the bathroom, right? There's no the Tim Hortons and the McDonald's and the places that you used to rely on just aren't there. And this is just something that we are continuing to try to adjust to while making sure that everyone stays safe.
Operator, we have time for one more question.
Did you hear that? One last question, operator.
Our next question comes from Whitney Dean of City TV. Your line is open.
Hey, Whitney.
Whitney, we can't hear you. I think we've lost Whitney. We'll take one other question then, one last question.
Our next question comes from Scott Dipple of CBC Calgary. Your line is open.
Mayor, can you just talk a little bit about property taxes in terms of, you know, this is normally the time of year in which council would finalize the tax rate so the bills can go out in time. Do you know when that's going to happen, and are there any plans to defer the end of June deadline?
So that was intended to happen next Monday at council, a week from today. We will likely still have a council meeting that day, and we will have this discussion. We are really working very hard to see what kind of relief we can offer to residents and to businesses on their property tax. I really want to be able to say to people, don't worry about your bill, whether it's your monthly tips bill or it is your annual property tax bill in June. That is my goal. We are working really hard on figuring out what that looks like. We didn't want to be too hasty because we want to make sure that we want to provide the maximum amount of support that we can, and that we want to ensure that people don't have confusion where it's just one bill, the provincial and the municipal, and we don't want people to be confused about what's due when. So we're working with the other orders of government to try and come up with a good package that makes sense for everybody. Ultimately, if that's not possible by our regular meeting next Monday, then the city will have to move unilaterally on what kind of relief we can afford. But I would prefer to do that as part of a broader package if possible, but we're working on it very hard.
Thank you for not saying soonish.
We'll get back to you soonish. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much to everyone for continuing to do the great work you do. You know, this week, or at least for the next couple of days, my special request to you is think about those who are alone. You know, I was watching Jan Arden do another one of her Facebook concerts, which are so outstanding. And she's such a great lyricist. And she's got that line in the song, The Sound Of, that says, I'm not lonely, I swear to God, I'm just alone. So can we make sure that those who are alone, those who are isolated, older people, those living on their own, let's just reach out to them, especially this week, and make sure that they know that they're not alone and that they are still continuing to be part of this community. I want you all to know that I've had the opportunity to speak with some frontline workers in healthcare, and you know, things are good. The hospitals are not overflowing. They're working hard to help patients leave the hospital so that beds are available for the wave that is coming. And Dr. Tam, the Chief Medical Officer of Canada, said this week that this week is crucial. And the reason for that is because this is the week that we'll start to see the true effects of the actions we've taken in the past 2 and 3 weeks to flatten the curve. So I'm really hopeful that we're going to start to see better numbers this week as that wave comes, that we're able to flatten it. But ultimately, that's up to every single one of us. So remember, like I always say, clean hands, clear heads, open hearts. Do everything you can to prevent the spread of the virus. Act not as someone who is trying not to get sick, but as to someone who has the virus and doesn't want to spread it. Act like everyone you meet is your 90-year-old grandmother. Be clear-headed and purposeful and thoughtful in every decision. Your city government is trying not to be overly reactive, but really be very, very thoughtful about the medium and long-term impacts of what we have to do. And every single one of us has the responsibility to do the same thing, to be clear-headed and purposeful in all of the decisions that we make for ourselves and our families. and open hearts. Let's just look after one another. That's all. It's easy, but it really matters. Physical distance doesn't mean social isolation. And ultimately, we'll get through this. We will. We do. That's what we do here. But we know that when we get through stuff like this, we get through it together. And that's what we got to do. Thank you, everybody. We will talk again at this time on Wednesday, unless, of course, there is breaking news, in which case you'll hear from us earlier than that. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, folks, we're